Hello, I'm Lester with lesterslearnings.blogspot.com. This session is going multimedia. Recently, I've been writing on my blog about the use of technology in delivering adult learning. Well, this week I was talking to an instructional designer at a Midwestern university, and she started talking about the use of learning management systems, or LMSs, to deliver adult learning. She's changed my perspective, broadened my views of this, and I wanted to share with you some of the results of that conversation. So first you have to understand, walking into the conversation, I didn't really see an LMS as a tool for delivering learning. I saw it as a tool for storing the results of learning. Sure, it has content, but really isn't an LMS just a database that contains the courses the learner has taken or at least started, the scores that the learner has had, and preserve those things? And turns out I was wrong. So she said to me that an instructional designer approaches a learning management system as a tool with which they can create a total learner experience. Sure, they include content, but it also includes activity and the ways in which the learner will demonstrate that they've mastered the knowledge, skills, or attitudes that are being taught in that particular course. So for an ID, an instructional designer, it's a way to tailor the entire learning experience. From the learner's perspective, they approach an LMS as the online equivalent of a classroom. It's where they go to get the content, it's where they go to participate in the activities and to demonstrate their mastery. Already, just this 3 or 4 minute part of the conversation had radically expanded my understanding of LMSs, how they work, and what it is that makes them powerful. As we went further into the conversation, one of the things that she explained to me is that you can use an LMS to scaffold the learning in a very intentional way. The example she gave me is when she is asked to design a course, she'll work with a subject matter expert to identify what are the learning objectives. Once she's identified those, she can arrange them according to Bloom's taxonomy, and once that's done, she can divide them into small chunks that can easily be learned and mastered, and she can sequence those chunks, whether it's from simplest to most complex, or from that which the learner already knows to that which the learner needs to know. But they can be sequenced in an intentional way to allow the learner to gradually go from their starting point to the point where they've mastered the learning objectives of the course. Now, while learning management systems may be powerful, they may not entirely be easy or simple to use for either the instructor or the learner. When I asked her about this, she described for me kind of a continuum that LMSs exist on. On one end of the continuum, you have LMSs that are more restrictive. There are very few editing rights. Perhaps a course shell is already created. The content is already put into the shell, the activities, the due dates. On the other side of the continuum, you have an LMS that provides almost complete edit rights for the instructor. Very open, very, very flexible. Both have advantages and disadvantages. The one that's open, for example, clearly one of the advantages. You can start to adjust and change the course in the middle of the course to reflect changes that may be happening in the outside world. The disadvantage is to use it well and effectively because they have so many rights to edit, the instructor has to be fairly conversant in that particular LMS. The disadvantage for the more restrictive LMS is pretty clearly, in this case, it's hard to make changes. So when things outside the course start to occur that the instructor wants to talk about, that can be hard. Or if the learners have specific needs, that can be hard for the instructor to adjust to. But the advantage is an instructor who's not well versed in LMSs, it can be simple and easy for them to get up to speed. Another advantage that can occur there is it can improve consistency if you have 2, 3, 4 instructors who are teaching the same course in different sessions in a same semester, for example. They can both be tweaked though. So D2L is one of those that is commonly, she said, open rights. It can be tweaked, and those rights can be hold back a little bit so that you could improve that consistency, make it simpler for the instructor to use. On the other hand, Canvas tends to be more restrictive, but it can be tweaked as well so that it can be a little more open and it can give the instructor more rights. So I asked, what does an instructor, what does a trainer or a professor need to do to make an LMS really powerful in learning for adults? And she said that there are 4 things that can really make an LMS effective. First, the instructor has to understand what the LMS can or cannot do. What are the limits, but also what are the opportunities in front of you? The second thing she suggested is everyone who uses the LMS should be trained in their role in the LMS. This includes instructors, how to use the LMS and how to use it well to instruct, but it should also include the learners. In fact, she said the very first class that a learner should take is how to get in and use the LMS, what the functions are in the LMS, and how to use it. The third thing she explained to me is anytime there's a change to the functionality in the LMS, retraining both of the learners and the instructors should be made. So when you have those changes to functionality, make sure that your users know how those changes are going to affect them. And the fourth thing that she suggested to me, make sure that there are always resources available who can respond and answer questions and troubleshoot when problems crop up. So at this point I asked, what about mentors for the instructors? If you have a new instructor, for example, who has never used an LMS before, is it a good idea to give that person a mentor who's someone who's fairly well conversant in the LMS? And she said, mentors are always good ideas. She gave me a slightly different example. She said, since so many universities use adjunct teachers these days, it's possible that an instructor may come and they may say, your university uses Canvas. I already know Canvas from this other university I teach at. But because of the different standards and different ways the universities approach Canvas and use Canvas, they may have very different feels. So I asked her to talk to me about some of the benefits that she has seen personally with LMSs. And one of the things that she said is this is globalized learning. This has given learners an opportunity to take courses that they may not have had an opportunity to take before. It gives them access either for reasons of distance, someone who wants to take a course at one university but they live in another country. It allows them an opportunity to do that. Another example that she gave me is sometimes someone who has special needs. Those needs can be met through an LMS. And she gave me one particularly poignant example. She talked to me about a learner she had worked with. This is a person who'd had a traumatic brain injury. Now, his cognitive functioning was fine, but one of the results of the traumatic brain injury was that overstimulation, sensory stimulation, could affect him. It was at a point where even just normal conversational speed talking between 2 or 3 people, like you would expect to find in a face-to-face classroom, that would be something that would be overwhelming to this particular learner. Using the learning management system, placing everything online, everything was in text, the learner could work through at his own speed. As a reasonable accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act, there were changes made to due dates for assignments. And that learner was successfully mastered the learning objectives, successfully completed the course. It was a way to give access to someone who previously would not have had access. So, as I said at the beginning, this is a conversation that was very useful for me because it changed my perspective on learning management systems, my understanding of how they work, and also what they can accomplish if they're used well as a technology for delivering adult learning. This has been this session of lesterslearnings.blogspot.com. Be sure to come check out the other blogs I have there. Thank you.